This game, man, I'm telling you, it is doing something that no other game has done for me before in this genre. I can say that strongly. Even like Emerald and like the old school Pokemons, this game makes those games look like trash. And like, not saying they're trash. Let me just explain myself. Like, they're so dated as games. There's so like less quality of life stuff with those games. They're still they hold such a nostalgic place in my heart. But if I were to go back in time, or not even back in time, let's say I never played those games before. I then go and play those games now. After playing this game, I'd be like, where's X? Where's Y? Where's Z? Where's all of these amazing features that this game had that game doesn't? It's the same thing with like Persona 5 for me. Like, I played Persona 5 first before I played the other Personas. And what happened is that I didn't like Persona 4. I never played 3. I think I own 3, but I never played it. And I can never play 4 again because the UI is not as good. There's systems in Persona 5 that are not in 4 that are just key. I don't fully remember anymore because I haven't played Persona 5 in like 5 years. Like, the exploration is so much better. That's what it was. The maps and the exploration is so much better in Persona 5. And yeah, like, just that those two things alone for me are like such major things about Persona 5. Like the different atmospheres, the fun environments that like are varied and different and like feel like alive and exciting whenever you encounter a new one. And then you go back and play 4 and it's like, oh, it's just dungeon exploring every time. There's like a few different background elements that are different for the maps. The UI is abysmal. Not abysmal, but it's very old school. It doesn't look as fresh, as clean. The styling isn't quite there. And Persona 5 is like a game all about style. Like, style is like its key thing. And so when you go back and play 4, it's like, yes, it has style, of course. It has its own style, but it pales in comparison to the oozing style out of 5. The oozing style. And maybe that's the wrong word. And sorry if you have an ick with the word oozing. Fair enough, honestly. I'm kind of starting to get one too. But yeah, no, it's been really fun. That game's really rad. But I'm just saying, like with Emerald, like if you go back to Emerald, which is like better than Ruby Sapphire, bar none. You still suffer with that. Like, oh, that's it? Or like that, oh, that's all the story has to offer? And granted, the Emerald story is pretty good. It's obviously a lot less in-depth and detailed than this one, but not having storylines, not having questing, not having like different Pokemon that are just completely worthless. Like in this game, I feel like you can use any single Nexomon and be successful. Any single one. Which is so nice compared to a Pokemon where it's like, oh, this one doesn't evolve. Oh, this one is a trait evolution. You can't actually use it unless you have someone who is also playing the game with a link cable or something like that. And there's so many antiquated things with original Pokemon because it was like the industry leader in its field. Where like if you go back in time and play those games again nowadays, you would be like, what the hell is wrong with this game? There's so many weird things going on. The evolutions are strange. Some things don't evolve at all. Like with this game, like everything just feels like naturally progressing. The questing system is clean and not too intrusive, which can be a problem with games like Coromon, where questing is a massive, massive burden. But in this game, it's not intrusive at all. I think this is my favorite 2D Pokemon style game, bar none. Period. Better than Pokemon games. And maybe it's this thing when you say it's a Pokemon style game. Pokemon's not a Pokemon style game, it's just a Pokemon game. But honestly, like this game, it's varied. Nexomon, the variety of them in each area is really refreshing. The combat system is pretty intuitive. There's definitely some cheesing with the combat system, which is like the one thing I'm like, I don't love the combat system, but obviously not every game's perfect. And like it still is fine, like it's relatively okay. The one thing of this game is the heal ability is way too strong. If I should not be getting away with some of the fights I'm getting away with. To be perfectly honest, obviously you can just get away with them with like potions and stuff, but they shouldn't assume that, right? The fight should be based around, can you actually like properly fight this, you know? So I don't know. With that being said, this game is I'm excited to beat it more than I am any other Pokemon game I've played, and I think I truly believe I will like this game more than any other 2D Pokemon game I've played. Honestly, like even better than like Gen 5, like Pokemon Black, Pokemon White, with that great story. Because I don't know, like the music's I don't even know. I don't even know what to say. I'm speechless saying the words I'm saying right now because I'm like such a huge Pokemon head. I think I said at the beginning of this session, with me in this shirt. So if you remember me in this shirt, maybe a couple episodes ago when I switched shirts, maybe I don't know. Anyway, I was like, oh, I'm such a huge Pokemon head. One of my favorite franchises of all time, and this game has got me rethinking that opinion of the games themselves. And I'm not saying they're bad games. Like, Oraz is a good, it's the best Pokemon game out there. And it still might be better than this game, Oraz. That's Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire. If they made a Emerald version of that game, that would be my favorite Pokemon game, and it would not even be a contest right now, with this game. Although I feel like Oraz has still grabbed a lot of the elements from that game, so maybe I'm over-exaggerating a little bit on that one, but I think the spawns are a little bit different in the routes and everything, so a little less varied in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire than it is in like Emerald, which is like the one thing with Emerald I really love. Is also that aspect of the game. But regardless, I am beyond shocked. Beyond shocked I'm feeling this way. But the amount of twists and turns the story has taken, the amount of brilliant written moments, and like, of course, a Pokemon game differs in the fact that it's not primarily focused on the storyline and the characters and all this shit. But is that a good thing? That it's not based on characters and storyline and all that shit? Like Scar Violet. My feelings on Scar Violet. I honestly might cut this into 2 different episodes, and this might be a gamer rant, which is be interesting. I might actually do that instead of having this like long section in this one. Scarlet Violet for me was like one of those games where the storyline really outperformed a lot of the other Pokemon games of the past. It still wasn't a perfect storyline. It wasn't like this super like in-depth story, but it was good. It had those tender moments with character with the black hair, no, gray hair, sorry. What's his name? Whatever his name is, that guy. Those tender moments with him and like his dog, and like yes, it was like a little like on the nose and like a little cliche and all that stuff. If they killed the dog, I would have been like, yo, this game's crazy. But they didn't do that, obviously. But that's just where my mind goes. Like I like the melancholic bullshit, you know. But anyways, no, like it had really good story beats. The ending was really solid. Like the main protagonist sort of turning into the robot lady versus the champion. Like I thought it would end at champion, but it totally didn't, which was really refreshing. To see that. I like the structure of the world and the design. Obviously, the only reason, and I will say this with confidence, Scarlet Violet would be my favorite Pokemon game of all time if it ran at any decent performance level. And it's so aggravating. It's still a great game. It's just like they have not even fixed it yet, and it's like, come on, man. I know the hardware's bad, but like, don't make the game this ambitious if you're gonna just ruin it on this bad hardware. Wait until the next system's out. Release next system early if it's available, which I'm sure it is. If it's not, it's whatever. I don't know. Again, by the way, a month in advance this is being recorded. Maybe Nintendo's already come out with a new system announcement at this time, but even if though, like, you still need to optimize your game to work with the hardware requirements that you're working in, right? So it sucked, man. It was just so aggravating that was like the one thing, like the game would constantly error out and break, and it just wasn't built for that system. And like, that's fine though. You can still make a fucking excellent game if it looks a little less like this game, for example. I think it has as good of graphics as Scarlet Violet. And you know why that is? Because the styling of the game knows what it's doing and has a direction. With Scarlet Violet, with Sword and Shield, with all those 3D ones, Arceus was a little bit better at it, but still not perfect, better. They're just trying to be like, oh, let's be hyper-realistic 3D, not even hyper-realistic, but like, let's be like this like semi-realistic, like like vibe compared to like a Pokemon Emerald, which is a lot more cartoony and it's a video game, and they played within their hardware as well, right? The Switch is not a mainstream console. It is an indie machine, right? It is an indie game machine, period. Make the game 2D. Make the game isometric 3D, like you did with Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. Love that art style. I wish people didn't hate it as much as they did. Maybe it's harder to do with an open world game, but maybe it's not, too, right? Maybe it's not. But also it has less mass appeal, so I understand, like, from a business perspective, why you would do what they did with the games. But, like, just lower the graphical settings. Lower the graphical fidelity. People are already dissing the game for its lack of good graphics, regardless. So just lean into that, keep the 3D experience, and you make it rock, right? And just perform. Some shit. Oh man, my aggravations for that game, no bounds, because it truly could. It was such a missed opportunity with that game. Just if it performed at any technical level that wasn't 2 frames a second, and I would even say it to an extent with like Legend of Zelda games. Well, less so, much less so. It's a lot less aberrant, and it doesn't like detract from the game at all. It's a little framey, like sure, whatever. That one doesn't bother me as much because the game performs well. It plays really well. It feels really solid. With Scarlet, it literally gets chuggy after like an hour. It starts chugging, and it's like, dude, come on, dude. You gotta be kidding me. I hate to vent these frustrations because I've been such a high believer in Scarlet Violet, but the fact that they haven't updated it and fixed those problems yet is beyond me and unacceptable, in my opinion, for a $60 game. Unacceptable. When this game's out here for $30, 2D, fantastic, better than any 2D Pokemon game I've ever played, and it's out here for less money. And on release, it's working. You know what I mean? Like, that is the thing that, like, drives me insane as a Pokemon fan. It's not the fact that, oh, the games aren't what I want them to be. It's not the fact that, oh, they don't have all the Pokemon in the game at any time. I don't care about those stuff. I care about them innovating on a product and making sure that product is the best thing that it can be for what they're trying to do. And that includes bare minimums, like the game runs appropriately at the appropriate frame rate at any given time. Just do the 30 frames per second rule that Breath of the Wild did. It feels fine. Nobody's upset about it. Nobody. Because the game operates at a good capacity throughout the entire experience. It's a consistent capacity that makes sense for the game. With Scarlet and Violet, it was downright upsetting. And Sword and Shield had good to it. Had some good to it. Like PC Box was great. I think that was also in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. Maybe it wasn't. I'm trying to remember if it was or wasn't. It might not have been actually. The box, accessing the box outside of PCs. But that Sword and Shield definitely had it, and Sword and Shield had some good to it. Again, incredibly framey in the open world, but it was their first time doing it, so I was like, okay, fine, whatever. But they've had 2 other games to fucking figure their shit out, and they have not. They have not. And I'm not saying it's a developer problem. I'm saying it's a company-wide problem for them at Game Freak, in my opinion. Because what they are doing is they know they have a product that can be anything they want it to be, and will literally have no problems because everyone will buy it regardless. And I will buy it regardless. The next Legends game that's coming out, I will buy it regardless. If the reviews are terrible, if the performance is awful, I will buy it regardless. Because I'm suckered in, like everyone else. And so they don't need to create this product that sort of extends the boundaries of what Pokemon can do and what Pokemon can be for players. And it's tragic. And that's why I root for competitors like Nexomon, competitors like Pal World, like a Coromon. I wish Coromon was better. I think Coromon's still good, it has a place in my heart, but it's definitely not nearly as good as these 2 games. Because I'm rooting for that extra push. Like, this game's on Switch. This game's on the Switch. It's not a direct competitor to Pokemon because Pokemon has shifted away from the 2D formula into a 3D formula. And I think Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl also shows that, because I don't think that game sold very well. And Let's Go Eevee was abysmal. You know, that was abysmal for different reasons. But again, they see 2D Pokemon both do bad. They're not going to go back to 2D Pokemon anytime soon. Hate to break it to you. They just aren't. They just aren't. Especially because Arceus sold so well, too. I think they're going to just stick to this 3D open world formula. Which is fine, because you can perfect the formula. Power World made a damn good game out of the 3D formula. They made a damn good game. as a developer shop that is so much more minimal than what Nintendo and Game Freak should be, and are to an extent. And it's not a problem with the developers themselves and the people making the game. They are doing God's work, because I would bet money that they are not working in conditions that are, and I don't know. Look, I don't know. I'm not accusing Nintendo or Game Freak of any wrongdoing with their employees. What I am accusing them of is mismanagement. That's what I'm accusing them of. I think they are mismanaging their employees. I think they are not using them to their fullest extent, or they're using them to too much of an extent to where they can't put out a polished product because they're getting rushed for release dates. They're getting not getting enough time to make these games into polished works of art. And I'm not saying a Pokemon game needs to be a work of art. I'm saying it needs to be playable at the functional level and doing something that is beyond just cash grab formula. Because eventually it's going to wear out. I know a ton of people, not a ton of people, I don't know a ton of people, period. But I know people who have literally dropped Pokemon from their library or from their game rotation that they'll buy every cycle or whatever, because the games have not innovated in years and not done enough to keep their games either performing functionally or, again, at that innovative level. And it's so saddening to me too, because Scarlet Violet was such an innovative game. So innovative, so many great features. But the performance never got improved to the level it's at. And that is literally the most important thing for a game is to perform well at a technical level, so that you can play it and have a consistent frame rate. Even if that frame rate is lower than 60, that's fine. People are fine with that. Most people are fine with that. Not everybody. Some people are not. Like PC Master Racers, I respect you, I love you, but also, like, come on, man. Not every game's gonna be 100,000 frames per second. You don't need that in your life, right? 60's fine. 60 works. I mean, movies are 24 frames per second. You know what I mean? 60 frames is fine. You don't need any more than that. You really don't. 30 and 60, the difference between the feeling of those two games, it's there, but like it's not that much there, right? Like you can adapt to 30 and be fine. And if you can't, that's also fine. But it doesn't make a game inferior because it doesn't abide by that rule, because it's restricted the hardware that's on. The Switch is a restricted hardware. I understand that. This game's on Switch. We've seen that as well in our Shy Guy Brigade video. Check it out. Set Beast series. We played that on Switch. Really great game. Another game, again, Pokemon inspired. Another game I love, dear to my heart, rooting for, because, again, I want to see Pokemon finally take that next step to make a game that is freaking delivering. You know what I mean? Like, freaking delivering. And making sure that it is the staple series that fans want. Too. Like, I don't know, man. They could be doing so much more. I understand why they don't, because the reality is the money's in the mobile games. They made a lot of mobile games. They're making more mobile games. There's a lot of money to be had in mobile games. So I get it. I get that's where their focus is. It's just really tragic to me that that's where their primary focus is nowadays. Honestly, at least that's how it feels to me. And maybe that's just a me thing, and that's a me problem. And if that's just a me problem, hey, that's just a me problem. But I think it's very telling that 85% of every Pokemon Direct is a mobile game ad across the board, and then is a bit of the actual main game line. Because, to be honest, yes, the main game is what draws people in, but I think their strategy has shifted from, let's make a Pokemon experience that's worth playing, like with Oraz. Like, Oraz was like that game where it was like, let's create a Pokemon game that's really fucking good and works really well and makes fans happy, gives them what they want, gives them that fire red, leaf green era type of vibe, right? Like what that game did back in that year, you know? Hopefully you know what I mean by that. Like the way that when that game popped off, the same way Oraz sort of popped off as like a really freaking stellar game. Although I don't think it didn't get as received as well, and I think that maybe it did. I don't fully know the sale numbers, to be honest with you. I think just from a zeitgeist perspective, it didn't pop off the way they wanted it to. And so at that point, they were like, in their head, they're like, why are we creating these really strong games? I would even say Gen 7 is a really big indicator of that, because those games did not sell well at all. Gen 7 absolutely flopped as a series. That I know for a fact. I think I know for a fact. I remember hearing that a number of times. So if I'm wrong, I apologize. I've heard that a number of times. So if that's not correct, I'm sorry, but I think it is. But either way, like that was like a game that like innovated on the genre, put a lot of time and effort into. It definitely had a lot of tender love and care into that game, and it flopped. And so I think at that point, Nintendo and Game Freak were like, hey, why are we putting all this time and effort into games that are going to just end up potentially flopping anyway? We're spending so much money investing in these games. Why don't we just focus our attention on mobile games? Make those work out, and then, you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to gather my thoughts here. So when it comes to mobile games, you make so much freaking dough as a game developer for so much less work. Does that make sense? Obviously, apps are a little trickier to make than like a game. I don't know if that's true. Actually, no, I take that back. It's not true at all. Apps are probably easier to make, if I had to really assume it. There's a lot more people making apps than games, so probably easier. Maybe a different skill set, but still probably easier. Regardless, it's a lot more money for a lot less work. The model is accepting of that. It gets a broader audience than the gamer culture. So why would you focus your time and attention on a game for it to flop, even though you put a deal of tender love and care into that game, when you can just create a bunch of these fairly polished mobile games, I will say. Like, I think mobile games are well made. Pokemon Go is fantastic. Pokemon Sleep, I've heard good things. The Magikarp game did well for a little bit. It was good. It's fine. That was harmless. I've heard Masters is better than it used to be. People don't like it, but I've heard it actually is pretty solid. And then obviously the Pokemon trading card game coming out pretty soon here. Not pretty soon. It's coming out, I think, next year at some point, but maybe later this year. I don't remember. Whatever. But the point is, that's where the money is, right? And Pokemon trading card game, by the way, oh my gosh, how much money is that going to make? Jeez. So, and it's just sad because I know the games themselves also make a lot of money, and I know the games make so much more for them if they took the tender love and care and regained the trust of the fan base. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just my thoughts. If you enjoyed this kind of ranty style video over the gameplay of me just standing still in Nexomon on like my little pedestal here. This will probably go under the gamer rants category. I have to say, it'll be cut off into two. This is just directly there. I just kind of went on a tangent, but hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Again, I love these rant style videos. I love to kind of share my opinions on it. Overall, my summary of the Pokemon games is they don't hold a candle to what this game is doing in 2024. In 2024, this is the best Pokemon developer by a non-Pokemon game. No, but minus that delineation. It's the best Pokemon developer, and it's in a non-Pokemon game. That's what I meant to say. Just different, right? It's different. That's my take. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. I'm healthy debate, obviously. If you are going to debate, please be healthy about it. Don't be rude to other people. If there are multiple people debating, be kind, be sweet, until they're not kind to you, in which case maybe you're righteous. But again, try to be cordial, right? It's just us playing video games, you know what I mean? It's all good fun. All good fun, all good jest, and we debate because we care, right? That's the big thing. If we didn't care about these games, if we didn't love these games, all of us, then we would not be playing them or talking about them to this extent, right? Like, Pokemon is still near to my heart. I will still play every Pokemon game that comes out, hoping to kind of relive those old days. I don't think I will anytime soon. I will say, though, Scarlet Violet for me was still a great experience. I really did love Scarlet and Violet. I will just end on that note. It is my favorite Pokemon game in the past, like, 10 years, probably. maybe not 10 years, maybe 10 years. When did ORS come out? I think it came out like 8 years ago. So maybe since ORS, I would say. It's my favorite book since then, including Arceus. I really did adore Scarlet Violet. I think it delivered very well. It's a very good story. Everything about that game was great except for technical issues, right? So I'm hoping that if they can just fix the technical issues and the next Legends game does fantastic and really cements itself as like that 3D monster collecting game, I'm sold, right? Like, this whole conversation is null and void at that point, but until that moment, until I see that moment proven to me, I'm going to stand on the soapbox that this game is the best Pokemon game to be developed since ORS. I would maybe even potentially say better than ORS, but I think I had to beat it before I really like make that discovery, you know? I don't think it's better than ORS. Maybe it is. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know how I feel about that yet. I'll have another video like this after I beat the game, probably, to be like, hey, this is how I feel overall, like ranking my favorite types of monster collecting games. This would be X, right? But yeah, it's high up on the list for sure. So anyways, rant over. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you have a lovely rest of your day, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.